Right, welcome everybody to our Mastering RMM session. And today, as an extension to our previous session with WebRoot, we're going to go through the best practices and troubleshooting and also take live Q&A as we progress further. So with me today, it's Twinkle, and she's going to take it over.
Hey, thanks, Amit. Quickly, I'll reintroduce myself again. I am Twinkle Sangvi, and I am the product owner for the WebRoot integration. And today we will be looking forward to the best practices and troubleshooting when it comes to setting up the integration and working with the integration along with the policy deployment. So I like to reiterate the prerequisites for the WebRoot integration are an enabled WebRoot account and the latest RMM agent. And the integration is a series of steps where you first enable the integration, then you set it up using the site mapping options. And once that has been done, there is a policy assignment associated with this integration, which you have to complete, which is necessary for the installation of the WebRoot agent on the endpoints. The WebRoot agents are silently deployed on the endpoints. So it is just a background deployment. And once the installation has been completed within a few minutes, you should be able to view the WebRoot endpoints on the devices page. So from an integration enablement perspective, please ensure that your WebRoot credentials are always up to date and they are active. In case of expiration of the license, expiration of the GSM keys, or if your password has expired, please ensure you update those using the WebRoot console and come back to the Easio portal and provide the updated credentials. The credentials should be handy as there are possibilities to have timeout errors and you may have to re-enter the information again. So this puts the system in a conflict state. So it is essential that you keep the credentials handy. And in case where you have updated the credentials in the event where the credentials have expired or something has been updated as a part of your credentials, it is recommended that you disable the integration and re-enable it. This helps the system to clear off the previous cached values that you must have had based on your previous mapping with the credentials. And this puts the system in a fresh, clean state, and you are ready to then proceed with the site mapping and the setting up of the integration. So as you can see, if you want to troubleshoot any errors, so while entering the credentials, if there is an error while generating the token, please ensure that your username, password, client ID, and client secret, these four are the main fields that are used in the backend to generate your WebRoot token. So when I say generate token, this is basically an authentication mechanism which allows Easio to communicate with your WebRoot console. So if there is any problem while generating the token, it is possible that these four fields may have some issues with them. So, and in order to ensure complete security, these fields will have to be re-entered by you again in case there is a token generation error. Once you have generated the token successfully, if there is a failure at the test connection step, then the major possibility would be that the GSM key is incorrect. So if you are copy pasting it, ensure there are no additional characters that get pasted into the field. So that's about it from the troubleshooting. And even while re-entering the new credentials, as I earlier explained, the cached values are still mapped into the integration. So in order for the system to take your new integration credentials, you will have to disable it. Disabling will completely erase all the data, your GSM key, your credentials, and your site mapping. So while doing this, execute this step very carefully. So that was it from the integration enablement. Now we'll move to the best practices that we recommend while setting up the integration. On the site mapping screen, you have an option to use find matches. Find matches is an algorithm-based function for the site mapping in order for you to come up with the best site mapping on its own. So what the find matches will do is it will come up with the best possible site matching with your Easio site. So in case if you have Easio site A and WebRoot site A, the find matches will help you find such similar matches between the sites and will suggest you these mappings. Please note that this is not the final step. You will still have to review those mapping and you will have to still review whether the mapping is correct or not. And to easen out your process over there, you can easily check how many have been mapped using the suggested matches, how many have been mapped manually, and then that shows you the total number of mapped sites on the screen. So if you want to see which have been unmapped or which have been mapped, you can use the filter on the top left that is available. You can easily filter out your mapped or unmapped sites, or if you are looking for a specific company or a site in ASIO, then you can use that filter as well. Additionally, it is recommended that instead of going back and forth between the webroot console and the ASIO portal to create new webroot sites, for your ease, we have provided an add new site option wherein you map the newly created webroot site. So you can create the webroot site also from that option, and once that has been created, you can also use it via the drop down that we provide for the webroot sites. There can be a case where your site mapping data is not visible. So the possible, one of the major reasons that this can happen is that your credentials or your license details are not up to date. So in that case, what happens is if this does not allow ASIO to authenticate whether the correct user is using this integration or not. So in that case, your site mapping data will start showing unknown as the sites that have been mapped. And that the other reason that can be that the site is unknown, I mean the webroot site is unknown, is that the webroot site has been manually deactivated by some user in the console. So if that deactivated site was already mapped to some ASIO site in the integration section, then that site will come up as unknown. So ensure that you remap that ASIO site to the correct web site. In certain cases, Unity APIs may be unable to send the information to ASIO during that instance. So in that case, you can return back to the site mapping screen, or you can click on the refresh button and check if the data is again. So moving forward to the policy assignment section of the integration and silent deployment, please ensure that the new integration uses only policies to install or uninstall webroot agent. There is no backend task or job that we used to have previously for install or initiate webroot check-in. Those are no longer valid for this webroot integration 2.0. So in order to facilitate bulk installation of the webroot, you can use policy or device groups instead of creating multiple packages per site for the webroot installation. Policy groups is one of the recommended ways if you want to group a lot of devices together and you want to deploy webroot agent on them. Plus, since we have granular level settings where you can easily enable or disable webroot for servers, Windows desktop and Mac in one policy, we recommend that you can use such granular settings and accordingly add the policies to the groups. Also, while setting up the integration, please ensure that once the integration has been set up, there is no legacy tasks active for the webroot install or uninstallation, because policy overrides all of these settings, and in case if the policy is disabled and your task for webroot installation is still active, webroot may not be removed from that endpoint. So this puts the system endpoint in the conflict state, and that is where webroot uninstallation or installation may not be seamless. From a troubleshooting perspective, webroot, if you are manually uninstalling from the endpoint, it will get reinstalled because the policy that has been enabled on it, the system is working in such a way where every 15 to 20 minutes, it checks whether the policy has been enabled on that endpoint, and if that policy and if that endpoint requires webroot to be installed on it, it will again reinstall if it does not find webroot. So please ensure that your policy mappings are correct and there are no endpoint level overrides to ensure that your webroot installation or uninstallation is taking place correctly. In certain cases, you may find that alerts are getting generated based on whether the webroot has been installed or not. Please note that the new webroot integration does not generate alerts on its own. These alerts are probably due to some legacy automation alerts or tasks that have been set in place previously. So again, it is recommended that you disable all of these previous settings which were there for webroot installation and follow the policy route. All right. So then moving now to the webroot endpoints on the devices page. It is recommended that you filter the view on devices page data based on what you want to see. It is from ConnectWise, and we recommend filtering it or sorting it on the version. This helps you understand which endpoints are there on the latest version and which endpoints may need a webroot agent update. Although the webroot agent auto updates itself, it is just recommended so that you know which endpoints may have an outdated webroot version and may not function properly from webroot end. To facilitate active alerting or active monitoring, you can set up custom monitors on the columns such as infected, attention required, and last scan. This will sort of help you understand which endpoints have been infected, and you don't have to manually go and check on the devices page. A quick setup of the custom monitor for infected can help you directly get the alert for that particular endpoint as well. So in case there is no data on the devices page, that means webroot installation has failed on that endpoint, and policy will go, and because the policy has been enabled, it will keep on retrying the installation, and you will be able to see the data on the devices page eventually. And again, as I said, Unity APIs may not be able to communicate the information to ASIO, but as a quick check, you can check on the webroot console if the devices are returning the data. It may just be a communication issue between the Unity APIs and ASIO. So still, we do have our FAQs and integration document over here. And in case you want to know more about the webroot console onboarding, which is a prerequisite for this integration, please feel free to visit our university docs.
All right, Twinkle, why don't we go for a live demo just to show how this integration looks like, where they can find this, and also take any live questions if there are any.
All right. So as you can see over here, I have already enabled webroot on one endpoint, and this is the information that will eventually be populated. You can see over here, this is the version, this is the expiration date. But however, in the integration section, as you can see, I have already entered the credentials, but to ensure complete security, the password and the client secret that is there, that will always be hidden from the UI once it has been entered, as you can see over here. So already I have entered the credentials and my token has been generated. So these values will be grayed out unless you update any of the fields over here. So please note that all of these fields have to be correct in order for the token to be generated correctly and successfully. Only then you will be able to test the connection, which will validate whether your JSM key is correct or not. So again, in the site mapping, as I said, these are the filters and mappings that I was talking about earlier, which are intuitive to understand how many sites have been mapped. So as you can see over here, my total sites have been mapped 2. And since I did not use the suggested, so suggested was always 0. But however, you can use these filters for ASIO companies and check whether those particular sites have been mapped or not. And if you want to check which sites have been mapped or which have been unmapped, you can easily filter those out. This is essentially helpful when you have to map a lot of sites and your suggested find matches may not have mapped all those sites completely. So in that case, you can always check which are unmapped and map them manually. And here is where you can add a new webroot site. And once you're done with that, it will automatically start populating over here. And once I click on save and proceed, your integration is successfully enabled and set up.
So just 3 steps here. When you're setting it up, just get the credentials, do the mapping one-time activity, and that's it. Do I have to ever come back on the screen again?
No, unless you want to update the site mapping or you want to create a new webroot site, you're not required to come back to this screen or update your credentials as well.
Great. But how do I set what endpoints get webroot?
So what endpoints get webroot, that is driven via your policies. So if you can see over here, the policies have to be enabled on those endpoints. I have already created one policy to ensure that. So here you can see this is the webroot integration for servers. However, I have enabled for servers, desktops, and Mac. So whichever package this policy is added to, and that package has been assigned to a site, Webroot installation will be initiated on the endpoints belonging to that site. So I'll just quickly show you the package that I have added. This is the Webroot integration package, and this was the site that these were the sites that I added it to. So as you can see, RMM test, this is the device where my Webroot has already been installed. And for this device, Unity APIs are not able to communicate the exact information, and that is why you can see blank. This is a default view in case there is a communication lag between ASIO and Unity APIs. But in case there is information, this is how it should look.
All right. What about policy groups? Can I use policy groups for deploying Webroot?
Yes, you can. So as you can see over here, you can already add an existing device group, or you can add a policy group over here. Okay.
All right, and all the same great functions that is available with the policy groups in terms of grouping, and everything works here. Nice.
Yes, policy group works as is for Webroot integration as well.
Okay, so I can set the defaults within the package and use policy groups as my exception rules wherever I don't want to deploy, and I can choose between servers and Macs and the workstations as well.
Yes, this is where you can enable or disable all those policy settings, and you can accordingly use the policy groups to deploy Webroot on those specific endpoints.
So just to reiterate, wherever you would have the agents installed, system will check for policy. If it finds Webroot is missing, it will deploy the Webroot. Once the deployment is done, I see back on my devices page the screen that you were showcasing all that data.
Yes, correct. This is the screen that you'll come to. And to come to this screen, you'll have to select the integrations drop-down. I'll just quickly show you. This is the integrations drop-down, and to see Webroot related information, this is the selection that you'll have to make.
Okay, great. So once the Webroot is installed, once the policy is applied, can I get alerts? Because I can see there is a section or a column for infected. What if I find an infection there?
Yes, so in that case, you can navigate to our monitors function, monitors component over here. As you can see here, you have to select the integration field and select the integration for which you want to enable the monitoring. And in our case, it would be Webroot. And since you want to check or you want to receive alerts for infected endpoints, your infection field type would be flag because it's a yes and no. And then here you can see which column has that field type, and then based on that field name, you can select over here, and if it is yes, and then you can run your automated task and get an alert.
Wow, so basically I can just choose any of those fields from the devices page and set a rule against that, and that rule would keep generating the alerts.
Yes,
and,
that's correct.
And each of those are bifurcated here. Okay.
Yes.
How about the ticket resolution? Can I set resolution against that as well?
Yes, you can. So as you can see over here, you select the integration, you get the flag, set the field name, and if it is no, then you can resolve the ticket.
Okay. All right, so that gives me alerts. You ran the automation to clean that up. It's a full cycle of monitoring that solution. So I don't see any reason why would I go to a Webroot console once I've integrated over here.
Right. Yep.
Okay, that seems pretty simple to me at least, but definitely there are audiences here on the call. Let's try to see if there are any live questions that can come for here. Let's see. There were 2 questions here, but I'll just read them up for everybody. What happened to client and server already installed from previous site configuration and mapping to policy to clients? Are they reinstalled or will be discovered?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What happened to client and server already installed from previous site configuration and mapping to policy to clients? Are they reinstalled or will be discovered?
They will be discovered. So if you already have an existing installation, they will be discovered, and we will have our backend systems getting updated that an installation already pre-exists, and we will maintain a flag. However, while uninstalling, because of that flag, if you are using the policy-based mechanism to uninstall the web root, yes, it will get uninstalled as well.
Okay, all right. There's the next question here, which says, does all the slide registration will be available after meeting? We have many steps and check to be done. I'll take that up. Yes, all these recordings would be made available in our virtual community section. You should be able to access them anytime to review them. And we do have support teams as well. So in case if something is not working as expected for you, you need some help and guidance for that, feel free to reach out to our support team. They should be able to assist you in setting up the integration or clarifying any questions if you have with respect to WebRoot. Right. We have one more question here. It says, can this be done with other antivirus softwares like AVG Cloud Care?
As of now, no. We'll be setting up those integrations in our pipeline, and then we can move forward with those integrations.
Okay. Yeah. So we're again an open platform. We have been working with multiple vendors to build up their integration. WebRoot integration is one of those that we have built it out, working very closely with the WebRoot team. But absolutely, we are willing to work with other integrators. And the whole premise about these integrations with the ASIO platform is to bring that single pane of glass, which you see when Twinkle was showcasing the devices page. We not only do the deployments on the endpoint, but we also grab the data back in the system. So it becomes a part of your ASIO thing. So you can write monitors on top of it. You can use them for device groups in the future. You can use them for filtering the devices, sorting those devices, actioning on them, using these values as a custom variables within your scripts and tasks and functions. So that's the whole idea to make things easier. And I'm sure you all would be more interested about the workflows and stuff coming in the future for your account. So we definitely want the full integration with workflows as well to provide that full end-to-end solution through a single ASIO function based out of that. All right, we got another question, Twinkle. Is there a link for a list of other vendors that can be integrated with ConnectWise RMM?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's
No,
okay.
no, please.
Yeah, so we do have our integrations listed on our university documentation, so you can check out our list over there. And also, if you have already set up a lot of integrations, then you might want to look at an integration on your integration tab, or you can always look at the marketplace as well that we have over here for a list of integrations.
All right, I'll pop in the link for everybody for the integrations in the chat. All right, any other questions? Anybody? All right, it seems like it was pretty straightforward. Twinkle, thank you for sharing us and walking through the best practices for WebRoot integration. Definitely that helps a lot of our partners, making sure that the integration works and whoever's using WebRoot does get deployed on the endpoint as expected. So we'll continue our mastering of RMM sessions next week. Do join us, and we'll go through other sections and features within the RMM to perform a deep dive and walk through sessions on that. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Do join our webinar series next week. Bye-bye.